Hello, everyone. I am Mickey Ibarra, founder and chairman of the Latino Leaders Network, a nonprofit organization celebrating 17 years of bringing leaders together since 2004. Welcome to the second Cafecito series event of 2021, a new digital platform designed to educate, inspire, and prepare the next generation of leaders. We will present our Rising Star Award and follow by convening an intergenerational conversation with two outstanding leaders. Today's honoree, Lina Hidalgo, Harris County Judge, which includes Houston, Texas, will receive our Rising Star Award and will then be joined by the Honorable Julián Castro for a conversation moderated by Maria Elena Salinas. We will also share a brief Latino Leaders Network video clip of emerging Latinx leaders featured in our digital campaign, Our Stories Move Us Forward, Then, Now, and Tomorrow. And we will get all of this accomplished in less than 60 minutes, so please stay tuned. I want to thank the Board of Directors of the Latino Leaders Network for joining us from coast to coast and for their support of our mission, bringing leaders together. Our premier sponsor of the Cafecito series is Wells Fargo. We are grateful for their support and the leadership of Ruben Barales, Senior Vice President of External Affairs, who will now deliver sponsor remarks. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, Mickey. Hello, I'm Ruben Barales, Senior Vice President for External Engagement at Wells Fargo. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you and our friends at the Latino Leaders Network for this virtual Cafecito. Wells Fargo is proud to highlight Latino and Latina leaders, especially emerging leaders like in Houston, Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo, and other emerging leaders. Wells Fargo has a history of supporting the Latino community. Wells Fargo was the first bank to team with the Mexican consulate in the US and to accept the Mexican matricular consular as a primary form of identification, helping Latino immigrants to join the financial mainstream in our country. More recently, Wells Fargo is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're making Latinos a priority. In terms of housing affordability, Wells Fargo is the #1 bank helping Hispanic families purchase homes. In terms of financial health, our goal is to increase the number of Latino homeowners across America. And that's important because, as we all know, Latino home ownership is the key to building wealth. And in terms of small business growth, we're providing access to Latino-owned small businesses across the country through the PPP program, and we're providing specific assistance to Latino-serving organizations helping Latino-owned small businesses through our Open for Business Fund. We're also creating opportunities for Latino employees within Wells Fargo and holding ourselves accountable for increased diversity in hiring and promotions. The Latino community is resilient, and working together, we'll get through these difficult times. Looking forward to the day when we can all gather in person. In the meantime, on behalf of Wells Fargo, I hope you enjoy this virtual Cafecito. Thank you.
Thanks again, Ruben. We are also grateful for the support of Anheuser-Busch, our book giveaway sponsor. Thank you, Julio Suarez, for making it possible to send viewers a complimentary copy of Latino Leaders Speak, Personal Stories of Struggle and Triumph. Southwest Airlines is the official airline of the Latino Leaders Network. Thank you, Kelly Knox. 3 viewers will have a chance to win a round-trip flight, courtesy of Southwest Airlines, for joining us today. Details to follow. And thanks also to Geico, Verizon, and the American Petroleum Institute for their support. We are grateful to our media partner, Be Latina, a digital news outlet focused on empowering women. They do a great job of highlighting stories of the Latino community across the country. Before presenting the Rising Star Award, please let us share a brief video featuring 5 emerging leaders from the Latino Leaders Network digital campaign, Our Stories Move Us Forward.
Our stories move us forward.
Then, now, and tomorrow.
My name is Cindy Rios, and I am a dreamer.
My name is Siriac Alvarez Valle, born in Cuernavaca, Mexico.
My name is Junior Enrique Sanchez. I am a Mexican-born dreamer.
My name is Valeria Jimenez. I am Mexican American and a graduate of the University of Utah.
My name is Felipe Tristan. I'm a conductor from Mexico and serve as music director of the Symphony Orchestra of the Americas.
My story is powerful.
I was born in Chiquimula, Guatemala, and grew up in West Valley City.
Empowering the Latinx community is a passion of mine that has been instilled in me throughout my life.
I am motivated by the struggles and sacrifices that others have made to help lift me up. Now, it is my turn to give back.
It is my honor to advocate for a more diverse and inclusive classical music industry.
I have shaped my career around direct action, community organizing, and spoken word poetry to amplify the voices of impacted communities.
I help undocumented students pursue a pathway to higher education.
I give credit for where I am today to my support system, my immediate family, and my close friends.
Our stories move us forward. Then, now, and tomorrow.
To begin the award presentation, Texas State Senator Carol Alvarado of Houston, an outstanding leader who knows our honoree well, has agreed to share a tribute. Carol, delighted to have you join us.
Good afternoon. I want to start off by thanking my dear and longtime friend, Nikki Ibarra, for that kind introduction. The Latino Leaders Network has been serving our community since 2004 by recognizing those who inspire and uplift Latinos across the United States. Thank you for telling our stories. As a Texas State Senator from Harris County, I am proud of the work Judge Hidalgo has done for our community. Her story is one of perseverance, dedication, and commitment to public service. Judge Hidalgo was born in Colombia during the height of the drug war. Wanting to provide a good education and a safe place to live, her parents moved the family to Peru, Mexico, and then the United States when she was 14. Judge Hidalgo thrived in the Houston area public education system. She attended Stanford University as a first-generation college student, receiving her U.S. citizenship and graduating all in the same year. She then furthered her education by receiving a joint degree in law and public policy at NYU and Harvard. Judge Lina Hidalgo is Harris County's first woman and Latina elected county judge. She oversees a county of more than 4.7 million residents, a population larger than 26 other states. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a once-in-a-generation crisis, she based her decisions on science and data to protect the public and reduce the spread of the virus. She continues to advocate for the well-being of her residents, even in the face of fierce opposition. In recognition of her accomplishments, Judge Hidalgo received numerous awards, including the National Hispanic Institute's Person of the Year, Fortune Magazine's 40 Under 40, and Forbes Magazine's 30 Under 30, and most recently, the National JFK Service Award. At a young age and under exceptional circumstances, Judge Hidalgo has proven to be a courageous fighter with a bright future. It is my honor to give tribute and recognition to Lina Hidalgo as the recipient of the Rising Star Award in recognition of her service to our community.
Judge Hidalgo, for all those reasons and more, on behalf of the Latino Leaders Network, it is my pleasure to present you with our Rising Star Award for your outstanding leadership and extraordinary commitment to your constituents and to the Latino community. Congratulations, Judge.
Thank you so much, Mickey, for this recognition, and Senator Alvarado for the incredibly kind tribute. It's always an honor to serve alongside you, Senator, our region, our area. But look, I am just so honored to be to be given this award and be part of such an incredible network of Latino leaders who are leading with creativity, are leading with heart, but are also leading through their stories. I'm about to participate in a panel with incredible people, including Secretary Castro, who himself brings a fantastic story, whose mother was an activist and a political leader. And of course, when it was his time to serve, he led bringing early childhood education, pre-K, to San Antonio, a program that is still celebrated throughout the country. And then as Secretary of HUD, with compassion, with creativity, always up till now, with such a vision for what's needed. Those experiences, that history, those stories, I think are the strength not just of us as Latinos, but of us as a nation. The fact that we bring such a diverse background, such different experiences, that's what makes us who we are and allows us to really put our heads together, come out with more creative, more ambitious progress initiatives. For me, of course, seeing the contrast between growing up in Colombia during a very difficult time, the drug war there, and the incredible opportunities that this country has afforded me and my family. That's part of what's in my heart and my passion to serve. And I really believe if you show me a local official that says that they can't do something, I will say, show me somebody who is not thinking creatively enough. There is so much potential in this nation, and there's so much potential for us as leaders. In the time I've been in office, I've been incredibly proud to lead on issues where few would think a county in the heart of Texas could lead. For example, on environment, in an area that is ground zero for climate change and also leader in the petrochemical industry. We're thinking hard about how we position ourselves for a competitive energy transition, how we protect our environment and make sure that good actors are not put at a disadvantage just because bad actors can get away with whatever it is that happens, being creative, being ambitious. We focused as well on criminal justice reform, investing in our children instead of building more juvenile detention facilities, investing in early childhood education, making sure that we're building a system that keeps people safer and that is smart, that doesn't simply keep doing the things that haven't worked for so many generations. And of course, voting. In a state that is the most repressive when it comes to the right to vote, we've been able to come up with creative and innovative initiatives to make it easier for people to vote. And that has brought us results. We saw record turnout in the 2020 elections, turnout from both parties. And that's what we should strive for, is participation, because that ultimately builds a better government. That participation, closely watching what elected leaders are doing, leads to accountability, leads to better programs. I want to continue working on this with partners like Senator Alvarado, like Secretary Castro, like Mickey Ibarra. We need to continue fighting with this spirit that is not so much looking at limitations, but is more focused on what we can achieve together, not through philosophical warfare, but through practical initiatives, practical solutions that we need, especially as we come out of COVID. And so, Mickey, and to the Latino Leaders Network, thank you for this honor. Thank you for bringing us together to share stories, to share ideas, and hopefully to invite and inspire other people to follow that same ethos and to help us push our community and our country forward.
Grateful for your leadership, Lina, and congratulations once again. And now for a conversation with our honoree and the Honorable Julián Castro. We are delighted to welcome Maria Elena Salinas, longtime Univision Nightly News co-anchor and currently a CBS News contributor. Maria Elena received our 2015 Eagle Leadership Award in Los Angeles. We are thrilled to have you with us to moderate this leader conversation, Maria Elena. The program is now all yours.
Thank you so much, Mickey, for that very kind introduction, and happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. I'm thrilled to once again join Latino Leaders Network, and this time able to enjoy my cafecito, see? my cafecito, even with a concha. And as you can see, it has a lipstick mark. Sorry. Café con leche, muy rico. But anyway, more importantly, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to chat with these two amazing leaders. And of course, starting off, let me congratulate you, Judge Lina Hidalgo, for such a well-deserved recognition. Bienvenida, welcome.
Thank you so much, Maria Elena. It's great to share a coffee with you and my concha as well on my coffee,
Yeah.
but with a fellow immigrant who is just such a leader in terms of portraying not just Latinos, but Latino issues. And obviously, Secretary Castro, will be great to join you in a second. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Well, of course, we want to invite us, Secretary Castro, to join us for this conversation. He's obviously someone that our community looks to for leadership and guidance. You know, the Honorable Julián Castro, he's a former mayor of San Antonio, former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, former candidate for the presidential nomination for the Democratic Party, and of course, current inspiration to so many people.
Maria Elena, it's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you so much for moderating today, and it's always wonderful to be with County Judge Hidalgo. Congratulations, Lina, on the very well-deserved award and recognition. Happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation. And I'm sorry that I don't have a mug of my own, but I'm sharing some good conversation.
Well, either way, salud,
Yeah.
Secretary. Let's start off with you, Judge. Judge Lina Hidalgo, as you know, you were raised in an immigrant family. You were born in Colombia. It's an interesting story. You grew up in Peru and Mexico, and then you migrated to the United States in 2005. You were the first in your family to attend college, graduating from Stanford University with a degree in political science. The same year you became a U.S. citizen. I mean, you've done everything so quickly. And just a few years later, you were elected as a judge at age 27 in 2018. Is that your American dream?
I can't think of something that's more of an American dream story than that one. And we all have a version of it, which is what's beautiful and what makes this country what it is. And I do want to clarify for folks who are watching, my title is County Judge, Harris County Judge. But my position is not judicial. It's an executive position. I help manage the budget for Harris County, home to Houston and 33 smaller cities, third largest county in the country. And so, the budget for libraries, the justice system, flood control, and I'm also the director of emergency management. So in the time I've been in office, fires, floods, the pandemic, of course, the winter storm, all throughout, this country has given me and my family so much. And so absolutely, Maria Elena, I'm just grateful and always committed to giving back.
Well, we'll continue to call you Judge Hidalgo. You earned your judgeship. You earned the title. Can you share with us a little bit more about your upbringing? It's so very interesting, what I just mentioned, living in so many other countries. Tell us more about your life.
Yeah, I bring a perspective not just as a woman, not just as a Latina, but as an immigrant and somebody who is in some ways a transplant, right, to my current community. A lot of people in this country, specifically, of course, in Texas and Harris County, weren't born in the place where they're living at the time. And so I hope that in my background, I bring that perspective, that story. But look, I'm someone who always wondered why it is that government works in some places and sometimes and not in other places. When I lived in Colombia, I was in the thick of the drug war. When I lived in Peru was when then President Fujimori was indicted for corruption and for bribery. When I lived in Mexico was when the PRI ended what had then been 100 years in power. And it was a very much a politically sensitive time. And I saw in many ways in those countries, government not delivering for people. And then, we moved to the US. My dad had job opportunities here. And I saw great things, starting with my high school. I'd always been to private schools growing up, private international schools. And when we came here, my parents said, well, you're going to go to your public school that's, assigned to our area. And it was nicer than these international schools that my parents had spent, so much of our family's budget being able to fund. And so it was, just so many opportunities. And I know not every public school is like that. And I know there are challenges, but it was such a contrast that led me to ask that question. So, did some work on international free expression and human rights, got involved in the criminal justice side of things. And where I've landed is this country that has given me so much, it still requires work from all of us to continue building. And so, after the 2016 election of Donald Trump at the time, I'm one of the many women who decided, I'm going to be able to give back more and have a bigger impact more quickly if I take matters into my own hands in some ways and run for office myself. And I found this position that had been sort of under the radar. People didn't realize how much of an impact it could have in improving the lives of millions, 5 million people that live in this county. So that's how we ended up here.
Wow, you've been living through history your entire life. You've been witnessing history your entire life, not only in those countries, but also here in the US. Secretary Castro, every immigrant has a story, whether you're an immigrant yourself or your mother or your grandmother or anyone in your ancestors. In the past, you've spoken about the way your grandmother and her personal story guides the way that you think about immigration issues or just in general about service to your community. Tell us a little bit more about your grandmother's story and how that impacted you and influenced you into getting into public service.
Castro is my mother's name and was my grandmother's last name also. My grandmother that I grew up with my mom and my grandmother and my twin brother, Joaquin, on the west side of San Antonio. My grandmother, whose first name was Victoria, came over to the United States in 1922 because her parents had died in Mexico, and her closest relatives brought her over to live in San Antonio and brought her up. They took her out of elementary school. She never finished even elementary school, but eventually she learned how to read and write in Spanish and English. But she worked as a maid, a cook, and a babysitter for her entire career and raised my mom as a single parent. And then my mom was able to get a high school education and eventually get very involved in the Mexican-American civil rights movement. And I credit my mom a lot and my grandmother with giving me a strong set of values and also a sense of optimism. And, that immigrant sense of what our country can be, of the American dream, of striving, of reaching for more, and hopefully of being in a position to give back to others in the community and to the country that has given us so much.
Mm-hmm. I had the honor of meeting your mother and interviewing her, and both you and your brother several years ago in San Antonio when I did a story on all of you. Maria de Rosario, Rosie, she's a very powerful woman, and she's also a political activist. Can you share how she influenced you and your brother, Congressman Joaquin Castro, to become politically engaged and seek careers in public service?
Well, my mom was a hellraiser. She went from kindergarten through the end of college, she went to Catholic school. She both loved a lot of it and then rebelled against some of it, but she loved the social justice aspect of Catholicism. And in the time that she was growing up, she was born in 1947, growing up through the 50s, the 60s, what she saw were the injustices of racial discrimination against the Latino community in San Antonio, the lack of investment in the neighborhoods, the high dropout rate, the high poverty rate, the lack of economic opportunity. And she wanted to push back against that. So she got involved in the Young Democrats, and then actually in a third party called the Raza Unida Party, which at the time was saying that neither Republicans nor Democrats were serving the interests of the Latino community enough. What I got from that, and I think what my brother Joaquin did, was this sense that you should participate in our democratic system, whether it's just voting or running for office or doing something to make sure that policies are put in place so that everybody counts, so that everybody is able to get a good education and reach for their dreams. That's what my mother gave to Joaquin and to me, and it's very much what I've tried to do in public service. And I'll say, just yesterday, I testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee on hopefully the new Voting Rights Act. And it was fitting because about 50 years earlier, in the early 1970s, my mother did research that was used in a presentation to the House Judiciary Committee back then about extending the Voting Rights Act to language minorities, which included much of the Latino community in the United States. And so I feel like, I'm very much my mother's son, especially as I get older. And
who's your favorite son?
I like to think I am, but
Of course, you both say that.
That's why I'm also so happy to be here today to see Judge Hidalgo and the phenomenal work that she has already done. And she's young, but she's already accomplished so much more than so many people that have been in politics forever, which is a testament to her. And, we need, both of us, I think, agree that we need to encourage a lot of folks coming behind us to step up like she did.
All right. Well, that's one of the many things that both of you have in common. You began your political careers at a very young age. Judge, today you were honored with the Latino Leaders Network Rising Star Award. While it's still very early in your career, you've already accomplished so much. What does it mean to you to be the first woman and the first Hispanic elected as Harris County judge?
I hope in some ways it is an example. And Secretary, you may or may not remember this, but soon after we won the election, you and I spoke, or it may have been just before, and I said, you took control of an executive position when you were very young. And so what should I know? And that was very important to me, is that example. That example makes a difference. That conversation was important to me. And one of the reasons, Elena, I'll share with you, and the Secretary may know this already, one of the reasons I took that plunge to run for office was because I'd met some young elected officials, or folks like the Secretary who ran when he was younger, I think, than I was when I ran. And so that made me see that it could be done. I have since coming into office, I've had many people approach me and say, I ran because you ran. Now, not all of them won, but I tell anybody who asks, running for office is an incredible experience and an incredible opportunity that from which you can only learn and grow. And some of these folks have won. And so now we've got this new crop of elected officials. I often have parents of girls or young girls themselves come up to me and say, you give me the courage. The fact that you're there give me the courage to get involved in politics, or to simply speak up and speak out in whatever sector it is that they're in. So I hope I can continue to do that, and that example helps not just Latina women, but women more broadly, and young people more broadly, who are wondering, hey, is it worth it? Could I win? Could I make a difference? And the answer is yes. When I came in, there was a lot of questions about, does she have enough experience? And the way we see it with my team is not about inexperience, but about an ignorance of limitations. We will never say that something can't be done because it hasn't been done before. We will never say something must be done a certain way because that's the way it's always been done. And that's served us well on all the issues we've targeted, from just shifting the way we do the budget to early childhood education to the voting innovations, right? I mean, this is something that could have been done a long time ago, but wasn't. Perhaps because the folks there didn't have that fresh perspective that people, hey, young and old, but just new eyes, that can bring.
Let's get into some of the issues that both of you have had to deal with. Who would have thought, here we are talking through Zoom, which is great because we can reach more people. But normally we would have these types of reunion in a hall with an audience, but we're still in the middle of the pandemic. Now, more than half of US adults have gotten at least one COVID-19 vaccine dose. I know I've gotten both. I believe you both have already been vaccinated also. So
one of them, yeah. 1 out of 2 so far.
Oh, pretty good. What must be done to close the Latino vaccination gap? Because there's so many Latinos that have not gotten vaccinated for several reasons. Some of them because they're afraid, others because they don't have access to information maybe in their language, others because it's so complicated. You know, there's that technology gap. So there's a language gap and the technology gap and the fear. So what must be done to close that gap? Either one of you. Secretary, want to start?
Well, sure. And I know, County Judge Hidalgo is right in the middle of this. And, there's nobody that has been on the front lines of trying to get the vaccine distributed more than she has in Harris County. But I would say, and I think, your question kind of covered some of this, which is there's a lot of misinformation out there right now, particularly in the Latino community. We need to make sure that we're getting the right information, that we're educating people in the community about the effectiveness of the vaccine, that it's safe, that their information is not going to be used for anything other than delivering that vaccine, because that's always hanging in the air. Anytime you have any interaction with something that's government sponsored. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we're going where people are. For the longest time up until now, this is changing in Texas at least now, but it could be cumbersome in a lot of places to figure out where to go get the vaccine, when you were going to be eligible to go do it. And then even if you signed up, you get a text message. And by the time you responded to the text message, all the appointments were already gone. Now, in many places, you can walk in right then and there and get the vaccine. In addition to that, it being a lot easier, I also am a fan of these efforts in different places to actually go out to senior housing, to community centers, to other places where people are at. Take it to them. Let's not just sit back and wait for people to come to us. I think if we can do those things, clear up this information, obviously it needs to be bilingual, speaking, in both English and Spanish and other languages for other communities. And then also don't wait, but go to them instead of the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Judge Hidalgo, the CDC and the FDA have called for a pause on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Even if they say, okay, fine, let's go ahead and approve it. Just the fact that it was paused raised even more concerns among those that were reluctant to begin with getting vaccinated. How do you overcome that challenge?
It is a challenge, and it's a challenge in raising concerns, and it's a challenge also in that there are some folks that only want the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and so they're not able to get it in the time that it's paused. But look, it's a multifaceted effort. Some of it is lowering the barriers to entry. One of the things we did in Harris County is we wanted to make sure that folks could sign up for the vaccine via phone and online, so that you weren't just benefiting people who were particularly fluent in terms of using the internet. We wanted to make sure that you could sign up in multiple languages, again, via phone, that it wasn't first come, first serve, because some folks are just busy, and they can't be there ready to click when it opens up. And so we had a wait list that was a randomized selection process, prioritizing older folks and vulnerable communities. Then there is the targeting of the communities that most need the attention. So we identified the hardest hit zip codes and the zip codes with the lowest vaccination rates. And it is there that we've sent and continue to send mobile vaccination units. And this is key, is the information to counter vaccine hesitancy. So on the Johnson & Johnson point specifically, one of the points I like to make is you're actually at a higher likelihood of having a blood clot if you get COVID than if you have this Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which has a very, very unlikely risk. 6 women out of 7 million shots that had this situation as a side effect. And so, getting that targeted information where it needs to go. And then, of course, tracking the data, we've seen as a whole, the Hispanic community is behind in getting the vaccine. For our part in Harris County, we're actually right on par. The past 2 weeks of data, about 46% of the population here is Hispanic, about 46% of the folks getting the vaccine are Hispanic. So we'll see if that stays on, but we're seeing some efforts pay off. As far as the vaccines, Harris County Public Health is administering. Now there's other providers, so I've called on them to say, hey, lower barriers to entry. And the last point I'll make is we have hit a turning point, right? So early on, it was about making sure we prioritize the people who most need the vaccine. Now, I know the country's moving to this. We already have this in Harris County, which is there's no more wait lists, no more sign up. You just can just show up because we have enough supply for that. But it also means the demand is actually down. So we've gotten to the point where the supply exceeds the demand. And that's when we need to redouble our efforts with our community and with every community. And the most effective thing for us to do is word of mouth, is just if you've gotten vaccinated, tell everybody who trusts you to get the vaccine too.
Especially now that it doesn't matter what age you are, and any adult can get it, 16 and up. So that's a good thing. And young people should get it because they're also vulnerable. They can get sick and then get their parents sick. Now, turning to politics, not that that's an issue that either one of you is interested in, but let's talk about Texas Senate Bill 7. It would make sweeping changes to Texas voting by limiting extended early voting hours, prohibiting drive-through voting, and requiring Texas to provide proof of disability to qualify for mail-in voting. Judge, the Washington Post recently published your op-ed addressing voter rights in Texas. Can you talk to us about the impact of this bill, particularly on the Latino voters?
It's really almost surreal to see what's in this bill. Is the Senate Bill 6, and there's a House Bill 7 that's being championed by the leadership of the state house, and it's similarly atrocious. And the most concerning part of these bills for me is this portion that says that activists, partisan poll watchers can go inside the polling locations and video record voters as they're casting their ballot. And they can do that. And it says in the bill that they are entitled to get as close as they need to get in order to be able to see what's going on.
Intimidation.
Intimidation, exactly. So the bill does say that they're not supposed to read what the voter is, casting the vote for, but if they're allowed to get as close as they deem necessary, where are you going to stop them? And the most concerning part of it is it's a misdemeanor for the poll worker to get in the way, to even stand in the line of vision between the partisan activist and the voter. So that, we have seen intimidation of our Hispanic community, our African American community, even before this bill existed. And we saw, I can't remember which outlet published this a couple of days ago, or relatively recently anyway. It was a video of partisan activists here in Harris County planning where they were going to send their partisan poll watchers, and they were highlighting the areas that are predominantly Hispanic and predominantly African American. So it directly impacts our community. Absolutely. There's also other, provisions, like we would have to stop drive-through voting, which is an innovation we established here. We could just pull up in your car and they bring the ballot to you. So it helps working families. I visited a location just yesterday. They tell me a lot of families with young kids are using it. Folks who may not vote any other way because of the convenience factor. We're busy people. We need to be able to get with the times, modernize, not be scared of this. And what we're seeing are efforts to suppress the vote under the guise of this big lie that there was massive voter fraud. And so it just makes you wonder, what's the real reason behind it? And I know that the results of it anyway are that it would depress Hispanic turnout and African American turnout. And that's, it's horrible on its face, but it's horrible given the history in this country of voter suppression.
Right. Secretary Castro, I want you to weigh in on this, not only on the bills in Texas, but frankly, so many others that are popping up all across the country. As of a few weeks ago, there were 361 state bills that would make it more difficult to vote.
And now they're probably well over 500 because as these legislative sessions go on in legislatures across the country, more and more of these bills are being introduced. The fact is that that Lina and her team there in Harris County were innovative. They worked hard. They made voting as easy as it could be for people who are eligible to vote. And because of that, we saw a record turnout in 2018, in 2020 in places like Harris County. When during the election cycle, I actually visited the Texas Medical Center's 24-hour voting station. And it was fantastic because it offered an opportunity for shift workers, for instance, to go and cast a ballot if they get off work at 2:30 in the morning and that's the best time for them to do it. They also did drive-through voting, a number of other things. And what we see out of Austin and in similar state legislatures across the country is people try to suppress that and to do it in a way that has a disparate impact on Black and brown people. And they're doing it out of a fear of changing demographics and what that's going to mean basically to the Republican Party. They're doing it also because the former president created this big lie about fraud that existed, which did not, in the 2020 election. And that meant that a lot of people in his base got dejected. They got dejected, and what happened was things like Georgia, where Democrats were able to come in and take 2 Senate seats because of a lot of enthusiasm, but partly also because Republicans didn't show up to vote because they're thinking, well, why go and vote if it doesn't matter if these elections, the election is rigged? And all of these state legislators now are trying to, create this legislation like you can have people watching what's going on. You're not going to have certain types of voting that's allowed. So they can then go tell their base, hey, we fixed the problem. Come out and vote again, because it's going to matter this time. And then finally, you have this long history in states like Texas of poll tax, literacy tests, gerrymandering. This is just the next chapter in a long line of discriminatory legislation to suppress the vote, especially of people of color. All of that is coming together. And that's why we need great leaders like Lina and others that are going to push back and not just get us to neutral, but actually expand the franchise.
Yeah. We have just a few minutes left, but I want to ask you both this. People are getting vaccinated. Businesses are slowly coming back. Schools are beginning to open. However, it's been a devastating year for so many that's been filled with financial hardship, loss of loved ones, and also increased mental issues. People look to both of you for motivation, for inspiration, for leadership. So what words of encouragement can you share with those who are watching today and struggling to overcome some of these unprecedented challenges? Judge, you want to start?
Sure. Well, look, it has been tough for all of us in many ways, in different ways, in similar ways. There's no sugarcoating it. And, we're the light at the end of the tunnel, but we still have to keep buckling down, doing our part. And in that time, supporting one another is crucial. And so, take it from me. My respite during this time personally has been my runs. I love to go on a run. I try to do that, but also just recognizing that we're part of a bigger fight, that all of us are facing this. All of us will get through this. All of us will have these stories to tell about how we fought against this virus and we developed a vaccine in record time, and then we won, and we came back stronger with energy, with hunger and ambition to go back to life in an even more energetic, incredible way. Our community is thriving. It will continue thriving past this. We may be a little bruised, but we're going to come back at it stronger. And we're not going anywhere. I know I speak for myself, and I'm sure Secretary Castro, for you, we're going to keep fighting for our communities. We're going to keep fighting for opportunity. We're going to keep fighting for equity. And so all of us just need to keep pushing together, recognizing it's hard, but recognizing we're strong too. We've been through tough things.
Good, positive message. Secretary Castro.
It's been one of the toughest years for so many people in our country, but as a country, as a community, I think that we've shown what we're made of. People have gotten up and they've gone to work. small businesses have been grinding it out and doing everything they can to stay alive. I think about all the parents that switched to remote learning and tried to make sure that their children could keep learning and getting good education as much as possible, the teachers that have done that. So, not to mention all of the loss in our country of life and how families, even in their grieving, have gone on. We've shown through the quick development of a vaccine what we're made of in terms of our potential as a country and investment in science. So we've shown our resilience, and that's something to be very proud of. It's a light in all of this. And then secondly, for so many of us, it out and doing everything they can to stay alive. I think about all the parents that switched to remote learning and tried to make sure that their children could keep learning and getting good education as much as possible, the teachers that have done that. So, not to mention all of the loss in our country of life and how families, even in their grieving, have gone on. We've shown through the quick development of a vaccine what we're made of in terms of our potential as a country and investment in science. So we've shown our resilience, and that's something to be very proud of. It's a light in all of this. And then secondly, for so many of us, it did not go unnoticed that the most vulnerable were the hardest hit. And there's a very strong resolve to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes going forward in our country, to leave them out there as vulnerable as they were. And I feel like for the first time in a long time that more Americans get that. And that's why they're more willing, and you see this in poll after poll right now, more willing to invest dollars in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure, in protections for workers. We have this moment where we can help right some of the wrongs that we saw during this pandemic. And I think that that's cause for hope.
Thank you so much, Secretary Castro and Judge Hidalgo. Thank you for your inspiring message. And I love your stories. I love your stories. I wish everyone would know them, because you really are an inspiration to so many, including me, and especially those people who come after you. So there's a lot of young Latinos looking up to you and getting inspired by you. And not so young Latinos either. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And of course, thank you, Latino Leaders Network, for holding this great Cafecito session. Thanks for the mug. And thank you for inviting me to have the honor of talking to these great leaders. So throwing it back to you, Mickey. Thanks. Muchas gracias, Mickey. And gracias, buenas tardes to both of you. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Good job as always, buddy Elena. Thank you, Lina and Julián, for your participation and for inspiring us with your wisdom today. And of course, we appreciate our sponsors who made this program possible: Wells Fargo, Anheuser-Busch, Southwest, Geico, API, and Verizon. To end the program, we ask you to view a 60-second video promoting Latino Leaders Speak and the companion curriculum guide located on our website. There you will also find information about future events. Please return the giveaway certificate that will be emailed to you soon to receive a book and be eligible to win a round-trip flight. Thank you for joining us today.
More and more of America's school children are Latino, 25% nationwide and growing fast. There is a need for Latino role models, inspiring heroes, and outstanding leaders in the classroom. The Latino Leaders Network and the California Global Education Project have partnered to make a unique curriculum guide. It will engage students to learn about the powerful stories of Latino leaders in contemporary society.
These stories inspire us to be better members of our community, of our nation, and the world.
Our goal is to inspire the next generation of leaders from high school to early college.
Help us get the word out to educators. Let them know of this valuable new resource. Urge them to get it into our classrooms, and it's all free of charge.